You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato.
Website Warrants, Silicone, Prairie, and the rise of the superbrains. Plus this day in history with Faraday's electromagnetic induction and our song of the day by OCs on your Morning Monarchy for August 29th, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Welcome to another blast of listener-supported media brought to you by you, streaming live Monday through Friday at MediaMonarchy.com/listen. It is a couple seconds after 9 a.m. That means it's time for your Morning Monarchy, and I do believe it's Tuesday, which means it is Tech Tuesday. Glad you're here. We appreciate you. You keep us going. MediaMonarchy.com/support. I'm a little behind on some emails, catching up on things. So I know I've got a couple of new patrons and a couple of donors that I need to thank, but their names aren't right in front of me. You know who you are. You probably know you haven't been thanked yet. Hey, Pilato hasn't thanked me yet. It is Tuesday, which means Tech Tuesday, which means Cyber Space War. And all the stories that we're about to talk about, use the hashtag Cyber Space War, and you can find all the stories. We tweet them out about an hour before showtime. You don't even have to sign up for Twitter. You can just see the tweets. Get it, click it, and it'll take you on over. Twitter.com/MediaMonarchy. I think yesterday's No America episode was quite the success. I even had somebody write me and say, damn, I think you got my request for a Trump-free episode by psychic transmission. Now, interestingly enough, I didn't actually consider it or think of it being necessarily a no Trump episode. It's fun and interesting that other people perceive it and read it that way. I just meant to do it as a No America episode, and unfortunately, Trump equals America in a lot of ways. As often our political puppet figureheads so do. So we're still working under the hood, trying to figure out some of the problems. Again, hopefully whittling it down. Does seem to be a lot of Apple-related issues. I'm still under the hood on the Media Monarchy feed, and I know some people are having trouble streaming it. Interesting thing, and this might be some whole other area that we get into. It seems like it's only Apple people having problems. But I don't know that that's entirely true. It just seems like it's mostly Apple people having problems. Wrote lots of people back last night. Gave him some tips, gave him an idea that hopefully I got a new address for you. MediaMonarchy.com/feed/podcast. That actually gets rid of some of the regular blog posts and things that can choke up and hiccup some RSS feeds. So we'll put that in the tweets. We'll put that in the show notes as well. MediaMonarchy.com/feed/podcast. And again, we're putting up every episode on YouTube, which means it is also on BitChute. That's youtube.com/MediaMonarchy, and that is bitchute.com/channel/MediaMonarchy. Oh, so much housekeeping. Huge thanks to the Truth Seeker app for carrying your Morning Monarchy, and especially when we're having some site woes, huge thanks to RadioConfluence.com. They simulcast all your Media Monarchy broadcasts. Some folks even say the signal is even better because I think our buddy Jared actually boosts us up and compresses us and punches us out a little bit better. So a huge thanks to Jared and the whole community at RadioConfluence.com. It was interesting yesterday not mentioning America and having to dance around things and go, oh shit, I can't read that next paragraph at all because it's all about how Trump has sanctions on Venezuela. Now, our buddy Keith also noted in the chat, hey, it's, I guess, somewhat of a relief to know that even when you completely remove America from the equation, that the world news, it wasn't like it was all of a sudden sunny sunshine. Now, we like to work on a little bit of sunny sunshine. We don't like to live all our life on the dark side, and we hopefully can do these shows in kind of a fear-free fashion. That doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be good news. Sunshine, lollipops, rainbows, everything that's wonderful. Well, it's a little bit of a red sky at morning here in Portland. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. It is Tuesday. That means Tech Tuesday. That means Cyberspace War. We got your Tech Tuesday news coming up in just a couple of minutes. Let's look at the breaking lamestream news, my friends, and finally... whew, we get to talk about America again. Trump heads to flooded Texas. That happens today. And no, dummies, there aren't any sharks swimming in the flooded streets of Houston or anywhere else. This is now the world that we live in. Houston police make 3,400 rescues as Harvey gears up for another landfall, and Wired has an interesting article called The Agony of Deciding to Evacuate a City. Now, I do recall Ron Paul talking years ago asking the question, why do we subsidize and pay people to continually rebuild in places that are known to be dangerous and get destroyed by hurricanes and tropical storms every couple of years? Kind of reminds me of that, that Bible story about the wise man who didn't build his house on the sand. Trump says all options on the table after North Korea fires missile over Japan. They would like you to freak out about Japan and North Korea. And again, this would be the kind of situation, wouldn't that be Japan's problem? GOP risks spending confrontation with Trump. White House aides reportedly have a nickname for Ivanka, Princess Royal. And it looks like here on the Alphabet Incorporated lamestream news, there's actually maybe one story that isn't specifically about America's next top president. That's about, of course, Mayweather and McGregor. Yes, I lost a drink on that. It was looking pretty good there for the first 3 rounds. And we do actually have an interesting tech story related to the Mayweather-McGregor fight. Really interesting. But this Princess Royal thing, White House aides reportedly have a nickname for Ivanka. This reminds me of something. I don't know if I have it just in my tweets yet, but we'll have to put it on the stack for Thursday, for Holy Hexes Day. Some new magazine cover spread has Kim Kardashian, Mrs. Kanye, all dressed up like First Lady. She looks like Jackie O. So what does that make Kanye? Yeah, that means more King Kill memes. How Trump and his supporters learn to love Antifa. That's a piece from the Sacramento Bee that actually gets to the heart of what we've been talking about for the last year plus. The power given to all of these dark forces. Pretty much said it all through the last campaign last year. Wow, it seems like all the attention is just, even when they say they don't like Trump, their slogans have his fucking name in them. They love Trump's hate. That's what keeps all of this propped up. That's what keeps everybody putting on their outfits and going out and beating each other up for nothing. Stay away. Stay very far away. Some of the sidebar interesting things on our lamestream news I'll put on the bookmark for later this week, because again, each day of the week we focus in on a different area of the news. I can't cram everything into every single day, even though I'd love to or love to try. Doling things out on certain days of the week kind of gives us a little bit of room to organize and think about things. Monday's world news, Tuesday's tech, Wednesday's health, Thursday's weird, and Friday is media. Organizers cancel offensive Portland Taco Festival. Sure, that's going to be really good. Police take their PR push nationwide. That's from the Portland Tribune. But now, I know you've been waiting for your fact check. You weren't sure what to think yet about the day. Google has recently added the fact check again, of course, post America's next top president. They're usually a bunch of celebrity junk. Jennifer Aniston does not hate Matthew Perry, despite reports. That's good to know there, gossip cop. Hillary Clinton caught on hot mic trash-talking Obama. That's from Snopes. And, of course, that's not true. It's also fake news that Trump pardoned that Kentucky clerk Kim Davis. That's from PolitiFact. President Trump claims that the U.S. would save a lot of money in embassy downsizing in Russia. Comes from the Washington Compost. But the one really interesting fact check that I had to click on and we got to talk about and got to look at, misleading Chemtrail Kelly ad as we head over to factcheck.org. A GOP super PAC aligned with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell released a digital campaign ad about Chemtrail Kelly that could leave Arizona voters with a false impression about Republican Senator Jeff Flake's 2018 primary opponent. The ad, sponsored by the Senate Leadership Fund, says Dr. Kelly Ward, a former Arizona state senator, quote, wasted your tax dollars for a town hall on chemtrail conspiracy theories, end quote. It also uses audio of Ward saying, of course, she would hold another hearing about chemtrails, and shows video of Ward saying she would be open to sponsoring legislation on the issue too. Chemtrail Kelly's got her head in the clouds with crazy ideas, the narrators say. But Ward had said before that she doesn't believe in the debunked theory that the cloud-like trails of condensed water vapor made by airplanes are actually chemicals being used by the government or others to change weather patterns and for other nefarious purposes. Ward said she only held the hearing to address constituent concerns. Good Lord, this article goes on, and I'm sure it's all filled with the talk about geoengineering and stratospheric aerosol injections and all the other things that we know and have improved. And as was just noted in the chat, thanks, Astro, they should have called it geoengineering Kelly, but that doesn't quite have the ring as Chemtrail Kelly, does it? We are really stuck in a world of a lot of different wrong-ass sides. Oh, choose your side. Your sides are all terrible. Can I pick that side? You're listening to The Morning Monarchy, and we are just getting going, my friends. We haven't even really dived into our cyberspace war news. And again, we tweet out the stories that we're about to talk about. So if you do listen live, which we appreciate you if you do, and we'd love you to spread the link, MediaMonarchy.com/listen. We essentially stream Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. News, music, and more. We got Corbett Report episodes. We got old Media Monarchy episodes. We've got live press conferences and breaking news as they occur. And here's actually the question. We were wondering about this in the chat yesterday, buddy Andy. we do run and air some of the White House press conferences. Play a little electronic music underneath them. And we run them live. So yesterday, it was Trump meeting with Finland. Did Barry and the boys stream their press conferences? I don't know enough to say that, oh no, they never did it, but it's quite possible just in a lot of ways the infrastructure and the audience wasn't really there for it, and now we are because everybody can stream on YouTube. So I'll ask you that question and throw that out, and we'll find the answer to that as we move into our cyberspace war news. Early Monday morning, a U.S. Navy destroyer collided with a merchant vessel off the coast of Singapore. This is now 2 Mondays ago. The U.S. Navy initially reported that 10 sailors were missing, and we discussed this just a little bit yesterday. Or maybe we didn't, because it's the U.S. Navy. Yeah, it just seems like we talk about America all the time, even when we're not. Okay, and I'll glance at the chat. Big O didn't have very many press conferences, but I mean the White House press conferences. The ones where the cronies are up there lying and deflecting all kinds of questions from staff who have all their private agendas and corporate media that they work for. The other question, will there be a New World next week soon? That's an excellent question, and of course, there will be a New World next week soon. I can't swear that it'll be this week. It'll probably be this week. But we took the first 2 weeks off from New World next week in July because we were doing a bunch of work. I was on vacation. I had a birthday. And then I got back, and I was still kind of in birthday mode. And I was like, Corbett, I still got a bunch of stuff going on. Let's dump the 16th. And we did. Then the next week rolls around, and I get an email from Corbett, and he was busy. So that's why we dumped the 23rd. So as we roll up to the 30th, we'll see if there might be a New World next week. Maybe next week. Let's get back to the news. You haven't gotten to the news. We have gotten to the news. Fourth U.S. Navy collision this year raises suspicion of cyber attacks. The U.S. Navy initially reported that 10 sailors were missing, and they, of course, have found some of the remains, and you're still seeing headlines about that coming out. While Americans mourn the loss of brave warriors, so says the Next Web, top brass is looking for answers. Monday's crash involving the USS John McCain, got a good sync for you on that when we get to the end of this episode of This Day in History and Birthdays. Monday's crash, the 29th, or rather the 22nd crash. Fourth in the area and possibly the most difficult to understand. So far this year, 17 U.S. sailors have died in the Pacific Southeast due to seemingly accidental collisions with civilian vessels. There are only a few reasonable explanations for the increase in U.S. Navy-involved collisions that appear to be isolated to this one particular region of the map. The crashes could be due to lack of proper training, an act of war, terrorism, coincidence. The first U.S. Navy collision this year occurred in January when the USS Antietam ran aground near Yosuka, Japan. The USS Champlain was the next ship to crash, colliding with a South Korean fishing vessel in May. According to reports, Navy personnel spotted the fishing craft and tried to contact it, but it lacked a radio and GPS. It's pretty strange to think that a South Korean fishing boat wouldn't even have GPS. Almost beyond belief. When the USS Fitzgerald, I don't think it was Edmund, operating near Yokosuka, it collided with a container ship from Philippines on June 17th, killing 7 U.S. sailors. They weren't found until the following day when damage control personnel gained access to the flooded compartments. The commanding officer, executive officer, and command master chief were relieved of command on August 17th after the 7th Fleet Admiral Joseph P. Aucoin determined that the bridge team lost situational awareness. That's disengage. Navy leadership has issued new training directives in response to the crashes, but that's standard procedure for any military event. The U.S. Navy works on a lessons learned methodology. Leadership treats every failure as a teaching tool and immediately implements new training procedures. It's still possible that the 7th Fleet dropped the ball and consistently placed untrained sailors in positions and situations that were bound to result in an eventual loss of life. We may also consider, no matter how well trained a person is, sometimes mistakes are made. We're only human. But should 4 collisions in the same place be chalked up to coincidence? Let's also consider that the current generation of sailors have been at war for their entire careers. They even italicized that on the Next Web. The longest war in U.S. history, it might be affecting the entire fleet's readiness. Just like it'll affect the populace, worn down by constant war. Year after year of war. 16 years of war. Keep on voting. We'll get out of it someday. So if we don't believe that the fault lies with the sailors who were standing watch during each collision, we're left with the suspicion of some form of attack. The Next Web recently reported on the case with which hackers were able to breach civilian ships. So the musical question, could a military vessel be hacked? In essence, what if GPS spoofing or administrative lockout caused personnel to be unaware of any imminent danger and make them unable to respond?
Morning, team. This is Admiral Richardson, the Chief of Naval Operations. Like you, I was devastated and broken to hear about the collision of the USS John McCain off of Singapore. They are moored in Singapore right now, and all of our assistance is flowing to the ship and the crew. That is our primary focus right now, the safety of the crew and the ship and taking care of their families. I'd like to thank everybody who has helped us get to this point, including and especially the Republic of Singapore Navy. Admiral Swift, the commander of the Pacific Fleet, is en route to take charge and to make sure that they have all the assistance that they need. We'll continue to provide you updates as we learn more about the John S. McCain. As you know, this is the second collision in 3 months and the last in a series of incidents in the Pacific Theater. This trend demands more forceful action. As such, I've directed an operational pause be taken in all of our fleets around the world. I want our fleet commanders to get together with their leaders and their commands to ensure that we're taking all appropriate immediate actions to ensure safe and effective operations around the world. In addition to that operational pause, I've directed a more comprehensive review to ensure that we get at the contributing factors, the root causes of these incidents. This review is in addition to the investigations that are looking into the details of the collisions of the USS Fitzgerald and now the USS John S. McCain. I've asked Admiral Phil Davidson, the commander of USS Fleet Forces Command, to take charge of that investigation. I will examine the process by which we train and certify our forces that are forward deployed in Japan to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make them ready for operations and warfighting. This will include, but not be limited to, looking at operational tempo, trends in personnel, materiel, maintenance, and equipment. It will also include a review of how we train and certify our surface warfare community, including tactical and navigational proficiency. Now, I want to make as many resources across the Navy available to Admiral Davidson in the conduct of this review. And that will include the Naval Inspector General, the Naval Safety Center, and others. I want this to be a broad and diverse team, including officer and enlisted from across the Navy, and also people outside the Navy, the other services, and the private sector. I want this team to be as diverse as they can be so that we don't miss anything in our review. This review will be on a very tight timeline. I want to get frequent updates. This requires urgent action. We need to get to it and take corrective action. Finally, I will be getting updates throughout, and I'll keep our leadership informed. In closing, our thoughts and prayers go out to the sailors and families of USS John McCain and USS Fitzgerald. We need to get to the bottom of this, so let's get to it.
So let's get to it. And let's start with a nearly 4-minute video officially from the Navy that says, You're listening to The Morning Monarchy for Tech Tuesday. We call it Cyberspace War. It is August 29th, 2017, and I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonica.com. Tuesdays are Tech Tuesdays, and Zero Hedge has written frequently over the last couple of months about the litany of unanswered questions surrounding the mysterious case of Debbie Wasserman Schultz's IT staffers. Why did Schultz seemingly threatened the chief of staff of U.S. Capitol Police with consequences for holding equipment that was confiscated as part of an ongoing legal investigation? Why did Schultz keep Awan on her taxpayer-funded payroll all the way up until the day he was arrested by the FBI at Dulles Airport while trying to flee the country to Pakistan? And what, if anything, does the Awan family know about the DNC hacks that may have caused Debbie Wasserman Schultz to act in this way? Now, Andrew McCarthy III, no, not the pickup artist, the former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, which has all kinds of good things going down in history, who led the prosecution against Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman and 11 others for the 93 World Trade Center bombing. So you're dealing with people who know a thing or two about a thing or two and have covered up a thing or two about a thing or two. They say, this is Andrew McCarthy III, this is his quote, he says there is, quote, something very strange, end quote, about the recent indictment filed against Imran Awan and his wife Hina Alvi in the District of Criminals. In a National Review article, in words I don't say very often, McCarthy points out that it's not what's in the indictment that's necessarily surprising, but rather is what's seemingly intentionally omitted. For instance, McCarthy points out that the indictment appears to go out of its way not to mention that Imran was apprehended while in the process of fleeing the country, a fact that would seem to be the best evidence available to prove the fraud charges. Let's say you're a prosecutor in Washington. You're investigating a husband and wife, naturalized Americans, who you believe have scammed a federal credit union out of nearly $300,000. You catch them in several false statements about their qualifications for a credit line and their intended use of the money. The strongest part of your case, though, involves the schemers transferring the loot to their native Pakistan. So, what's the best evidence you could possibly have? The slam dunk proof that their goal was to steal the money and never look back. It's easy. One after the other, the wife and husband pulled up stakes and tried to hightail it to Pakistan after they wired the funds there. The wife successfully fleeing, the husband nabbed as he was about to board his flight. So here's the peculiar thing about the so-called Department of Justice's indictment of Imran Awan and Hina Alvi, the alleged fraudster couple who doubled as IT whizzes for Debbie Wasserman Schultz and many other congressional Democrats. There's not a word in it about the flight to Pakistan. The indictment undertakes to describe in detail 4 counts of bank fraud conspiracy, false statements on credit applications, and unlawful monetary transactions, yet leaves out the most damning evidence of guilt. In fact, the indictment appears to go out of its way to not mention it. Why would prosecutors leave that out of their indictment? Why give Awan's defense a basis to claim that, since the indictment does not allege anything about a flight to Pakistan, the court should bar any mention of it during the trial? You can see them sort of setting up the traps, if you will. In fact, quite apart from the manifest case-related reasons to plead instances of flight, a competent prosecutor would have included them in the indictment simply to underscore that Awan is a flight risk who should have onerous bail conditions or even be detained pre-trial. Then there's the case of Imran's wife, Hina Alvi. When she fled the country back in March, she was detained by U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents because she had $12,000 cash in her luggage, technically a crime by itself if not properly disclosed. But she was allowed by the FBI to leave the country despite having been under investigation for months. And then there's just the continued total secrecy surrounding the case. Why did the U.S. Attorney's Office decide against filing a press release in a case that has garnered significant national attention? Why was the case filed in a district where Debbie Wasserman Schultz's brother has been an assistant U.S. attorney for many years? I guess it's probably nothing. Or is there something very strange going on here? We'll continue to check in on the DNC links, the Awan brothers, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and the complete criminal implosion of the phony left side of fake American politics. And the fake flies on, my friends. A District of Criminals Superior Court judge last Thursday approved a government warrant seeking data from an anti-Trump website related to Inauguration Day protests, but he added protections to safeguard innocent users. Thanks, Judgy. Chief Judge Robert Morin said DreamHost, a Los Angeles-based web hosting company, must turn over data about visitors to the website disruptj20.org, which was home to political activists who organized protests at the time of America's next top president inauguration as president back in January 20th. Morin, who will oversee review of the data, says the Gov must explain what protocols it will use to make sure prosecutors do not seize the data of, quote, innocent users. Justice Department said it sought the records connected to the site because of concerns that it helped facilitate the planning of protests on Inauguration Day when more than 200 people were arrested for rioting and vandalizing businesses in downtown D.C. DreamHost resisted the request, saying the scope of the warrant was too broad and trampled on the rights of the 1.3 million visitors to the site, many of whom were simply expressing their political views. The Justice Department last week proposed amending the scope of its warrant to exclude the IP addresses of website visitors and limit the search only to records from July 1st, 2016 to the Jan 20 Inauguration Day, but DreamHost still said the warrant was too broad. as it could sweep in people who sent emails to disrupt J20 addresses. The company objected to the two-step process that would require it to turn over data in bulk and let prosecutors search for and seize evidence of criminal involvement in the riots. Morin said at a hearing on Thursday that he recognized the tension between free speech rights and law enforcement's need to search digital records for evidence. He said he added safeguards to his order, granting the government's request for information in an effort to balance those two concerns. Besides reviewing the prosecutor's privacy protocols, Morin also shortened the time frame for records to those generated from October to Inauguration Day, and instructed the prosecutors to explain why anything they want to seize is germane to the investigation. It's a tremendous step in terms of further limiting what the government can do, said Raymond Agadian, DreamHost's lawyer, but the company still has concerns about the chilling effect of the data being turned over for government review and is considering an appeal.
A District of Columbia Superior Court judge approved a government warrant on Thursday seeking data from an anti-Trump website related to Inauguration Day riots, but he added protections to safeguard innocent users. At a hearing, Chief Judge Robert Morin said DreamHost, a Los Angeles-based web hosting company, must turn over data about visitors to the website disruptj20.org, which is a home to political activists who organized protests at the time of Donald Trump's inauguration as U.S. president in January.
So much wasted time. So much misguided effort. You're listening to The Morning Monarchy. It is a Tech Tuesday, and we go from American politics to American economics. Woo! Iowa. That's right. The great state of Iowa approved a deal Thursday to give Apple $208 million in state and local theft breaks to build 2 data storage centers near Des Moines and the promise to create 50 jobs. The deal approved by the Iowa Economic Development Authority includes a refund of $19.6 million in state taxes, state thefts for Apple, and a $188 million property theft from Waukee, a booming suburb bordering on Des Moines. In addition to the promised 50 jobs, Apple has agreed to buy 2,000 acres of land for the $1.4 billion project, enough to allow for future development. Now, if we've learned anything from FriendFace, is Microsoft, that's where you're going to build your Zuckervilles. You'll live on the company plantation, and then you'll spend your digital zeros and ones at the Circle store. Apple CEO Tim Cook and Republican Governor Kim Reynolds were expected to discuss the deal at a news conference later Thursday. Critics were quick to cast the deal as bad for the public. It's a net fiscal loss that's a straightforward giveaway in an economy to a company that's extraordinarily wealthy, and it makes no sense from an economist's point of view. It only makes sense from a politician's point of view, said David Swenson, economist at Iowa State University and critic of such large economic development project tax breaks. And that's how that works. I'm sure it's happening in other cities around America right now, wherever some big new jock-o-rama center is going to go. They get a bunch of theft breaks to build a big, giant arena. Of course, that's all the kickbacks for all the construction people and all that graft and all those things in their back pockets. And then, of course, 5 years, they'll probably tear it down. The Economic Development Board's chairman, Chris Murray, though, said such projects bring people who build homes, generating tax revenue and causing other businesses to look to moving to Iowa. They say we should go to Iowa because we have these epicenters there. And as you look at the age demographics and the growth of Iowa, I think it's really difficult to challenge the fact there are ancillary growth benefits from making an investment like this. They're basically saying, kids like internet, this is internet, grow to internet. Google, Facebook, Microsoft have already built billion-dollar data centers in Iowa. Like Apple, they were drawn to the state by its generous theft breaks, wind-generated electricity, and relatively secure from natural disasters that could disrupt service. Now, I found local news coverage on this story. KCCI from out of Iowa. This is actually... it's like a 7-minute news piece. When's the last time you've ever seen your local news do anything for 7 minutes? That should tell you how excited they are for this. And they're even calling it the Silicone Prairie.
We first told you about this deal yesterday, Apple to build 2 data centers in Waukee.
Today, that deal was made official. Apple has agreed to build a $1.4 billion data center on a 2,000-acre site west of Waukee off 300th Street between University and Hickman. Today, many are asking, what did it take to convince Apple to come to Iowa?
KCCI Steve Carlin joins us from Waukee with tonight's Team 8 coverage.
All right, Stacy and Shayna, finalizing this deal took less than an hour today. First, the city of Waukee signed on. Then, Iowa economic development officials put pen to paper. And Cynthia Fodor is here now. And Cynthia, simple deal, but there are some more details to this.
Oh, lots going on behind the scenes from what we understand for about almost the past 2 years. But a flurry of meetings this morning approved the state and local tax incentives for Apple to build its billion-dollar project here.
The motion's approved unanimously.
First, the Waukee City Council agreed to a $188 million break on property taxes.
This is going to be good for the local economy.
Moments later, the Iowa Economic Development Authority included nearly $20 million in state tax incentives.
It's really raising the profile of Iowa for tech and knowledge workers.
Then, Governor Reynolds and Apple CEO Tim Cook walked down the state capitol steps to make the big announcement.
For the past 20 months, Apple has been searching for the perfect location, and I am so proud to say that they found it right here in Iowa.
This facility will create hundreds of jobs for people in Iowa, from construction to engineering. Data centers like this new facility are critical to Apple's operations.
The data center will create 50 jobs and 1,700 construction jobs. Apple is also contributing $100 million for a new public improvement fund for infrastructure, parks, libraries, and this youth sports complex.
And we were just told by the Waukee mayor that that is the first time Apple has given that $100 million back to the community for a fund like that. The 50 jobs they are creating here will pay about $29 an hour, I'm told, under the state incentive program. And the governor says that the data center, Steve, will inject about $33 million back into the local economy.
Yeah, a lot of big money there, Cynthia. Well, after the press conference and the announcement today that you attended at the State House, Governor Reynolds and Apple CEO Tim Cook came out here to this beautiful facility just west of Des Moines in Waukee. It's called the Waukee Innovation and Learning Center. Now here they toured the facility and talked with the kids in a new program that pairs them with local business and industry leaders who then teach them through real-world experiences, and that prepares them for high-tech jobs, those jobs that we're looking toward in the future. Tim Cook was impressed, but he was not as impressed as Governor Reynolds is with today's announcement. She is absolutely giddy that all 4 of the country's high-tech giants now have a presence in the state of Iowa.
Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Google. I mean, that's the future. That it also, I think it really solidifies that Iowa is an innovation and technology hub, and it says that to the world. And that's just the start. Don't stop there. Think of the phase 2, 3, 4, the supply chain, the growth that we're going to see, the construction jobs. These are permanent jobs.
These are permanent jobs. Remember that. Write that in the sky on gossamer clouds and teardrops. These are permanent jobs. Like a giddy, impressionable schoolgirl, the governor of Iowa is super excited about bringing all the tech giants. And again, these are permanent jobs. 50 whole jobs. And the hundreds that get to, of course, dig in the dirt and make it. I, for one, welcome our new wait, no, I don't. And it was noted in the chat, I think our friend Heart of California might win the amazing pun of this episode. Apple of my Iowa. You're listening to The Morning Monarchy. It is Tech Tuesday, August 29th, 2017, and I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Anybody relying on the CIA for tech support got a nasty surprise, as documents published by WikiLeaks revealed a secret project to siphon out data through its technical liaison service dating back to 2009. The headline: the CIA built a fake software update system to spy on Intel partners. Golly, that sounds like Inslaw, Promise Software, Danny Casolaro, Octopus Territory. The program called Express Lane. camel case, one word, designed to be deployed alongside a biometric collection system that the CIA provides to partner agencies. In theory, those partners are agreeing to provide the CIA with access to specific biometric data, but on the off chance those partners are holding out on them, Express Lane gives the agency a way to take it without anyone knowing. Express Lane masquerades as a software update delivered in person by CIA technicians, but the documents make clear that the program itself will remain unchanged. Instead, the program siphons the system's data to a thumb drive where agents can examine it to see if there's anything the partner system is holding back. There's not anything else in the car you want to tell me about, is there? If the partners refuse the phony update, there's a hidden kill switch that lets agents shut down the entire system after a set period of time, requiring another in-person CIA visit to restore the system. That's possibly reason enough for you to just go along with it. Leave me alone, gangsters. Yeah, it's a nice computer system. Shame if somebody installed backdoor software on it like we do, as a matter of course. It's still unclear who exactly these intel partners are. WikiLeaks claims the program was primarily used against U.S. agencies like FBI and Homeland Security, although the targets are far less clear from the documents themselves, since the CIA doesn't maintain any significant biometric database of its own. It's also unclear what the agency would do with any data obtained in this matter. Still, as The Verge writes, it is a striking example of the CIA using tech support as a way of gaining access to sensitive information, and as WikiLeaks continues to release the agency's hacking tools as part of the Vault 7 campaign, it's a reminder of how sophisticated the agency's digital spycraft really is. That's from The Verge. And another reason not to ask them for help, not to call the cops, don't call up the Geek Squad. Now let's head on over to Australia, shall we? The whole New Zealand-based spying operation against Kim.com and his mega upload co-defendants was illegal, High Court has ruled. The revelation appears in a newly released decision which shows the GCSB spy agency refusing to respond to questions about its activities on the basis that could jeopardize, say it with me, national security. In the months that preceded the January 2012 raid on the file storage site Mega Upload, authorities in New Zealand, sorry I said Australia, sorry Kiwis, authorities in New Zealand, it's about to try an accent, but I won't, I'll save it for the end of the episode. Authorities in New Zealand used the Government Communications Security Bureau, GCSB, spy agency to monitor Kim and Mona.com plus Mega Upload co-defendant Bram Vanderkolk. When this fact was revealed, it developed into a crisis. The GCSB was forbidden by law from conducting surveillance on its own citizens or permanent residents in the country, which led to former Prime Minister John Key later apologizing for the error. With .com determined to uncover the truth, the entrepreneur launched legal action in pursuit of the information illegally obtained by the GCSB and to obtain compensation. In July, the High Court determined that .com wouldn't get access to the info, but it also revealed that the scope of the spying went on much longer than previously admitted, a fact later confirmed by the cops. This raised the specter that not only did the GCSB continue to spy on .com after it knew it was acting illegally, but that an earlier affidavit from a GCSB staff member was suspect. As the saga dragged on, revelations published in New Zealand indicate that not only was the spying on .com illegal, the entire spying operation, which included his Mega Upload co-defendants, was illegal too. We will see what happens next. This essentially developed over the weekend. I think I still follow Kim.com on Twitter. He's usually ballin'. So that was actually from Torrent Freak. And again, everything we say and play always included in the show notes. I have a rather OCD-like way I want to source and cite everything we talk about, so you can continue the research for yourself. And again, when you find new information, you got to come back to the cave and tell us about it. Second one from Torrent Freak. It's for hardcore boxing fans. No, it's for everybody. It was the fight that should have never taken place. Undefeated legend Floyd Money Mayweather stepped into the ring against UFC lightweight champion and supposed boxing novice Conor McGregor. A known slow starter, Mayweather came out to true form, arguably losing the first 3 rounds to the brash Irishman, who had previously promised to bounce the 40-year-old's head off the canvas in round 1, but by round 10, it was all over, with McGregor running out of gas and with no answer to Mayweather's increasingly vicious punches. As my buddy Herm said, called it and won him a beer from me, TKO Mayweather. Viewing figures won't be in for a little while. The event's likely to have been a massive pay-per-view success all over the world, millions tuning in for what actually turned out to be a value-for-money event. A lot of times these pay-per-view events are over before they start. But despite widespread availability, it's likely that hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions, tuned into the fight from unofficial sources. I tried to find it on YouTube. I couldn't. I basically found a bunch of UFC guys looking at the TV watching the fight. So that was kind of how I listened to it a little bit. And it was, funny to hear me go, oh, God, he's getting punched a lot. Oh, that's a lot of punches. But interestingly, some of the illegal streams had a little something extra thrown in for free during the fight. Torrent Freak received an unsubstantiated report that an unusual watermark was being embedded into streams originally broadcast by Sky Box Office in the UK. The message Torrent Freak got simply said there were codes on the screen, but they were unable to get any info from that person, who was then already offline. Quick inquiries with 2 other sources watching pirated streams confirmed that codes had appeared on their screens too. One even managed to get a screen grab, and those are embedded on this article from Torrent Freak, and it just looks like little weird, long strings of almost like your serial MAC address, that long bit of code. The letter and number combinations briefly appeared in 20 to 23 sets of pairs, which, according to the images seen by Torrent Freak, stayed the same throughout the broadcast. It's possible there was some variation, but they haven't really seen it. The question is, why were they put there and by whom? According to the sources, the codes didn't appear while the main action was taking place, but when the camera turned to other people in each corner. Since no digits appeared on top of the fight itself, it might suggest that they were put there by the broadcaster, in this case Sky Box Office, who were licensed to show the fight in the UK. If that was the case, it's certainly possible that the sequence of numbers would allow Sky to track the illicit stream back to a subscriber and or a set-top box tied to a particular account. The other possibility is that the codes were not put there by Sky or another official broadcaster in the chain, but by someone in the illicit streaming market. Pirate streams are vulnerable to being stolen in much the same way that official streams are, so it's possible that a provider wanted to keep tabs on where its streams were ending up. So the biggest question is, why, with all the sophisticated technology available in 2017, were the watermark codes so visible? And I believe the reply to our buddy Ray Vahi's original tweet says, it was either done by complete amateurs or they wanted you to see it. Last few stories here on the Cyberspace War edition of your Morning Monarchy. We'll kind of return to something we've briefly mentioned before, but I think it's sometimes worth mentioning again. I think we possibly mentioned it on a Thursday Holy Hexes episode where the new robot was performing, religious ceremonies.
Funeral robot priests are ready for hire in Japan. A Japanese company has decided to totally take the life out of funerals by using SoftBank's humanoid robot Pepper as a Buddhist priest for funerals that you can hire. With the help of some software upgrades, Pepper can now chant sutras in a robot voice while tapping on a drum. The priest bot was on display at a funeral trade show in Tokyo on Wednesday. The robot provides a cheaper alternative than getting a human priest. Old school priests will run you around $2,200, while Pepper only costs around $450 per funeral. Pepper can be outfitted in different robes depending on the wishes of the customers. They can also live stream the ceremony to people who aren't able to attend the funeral in person. Pepper hasn't been hired yet, but maybe if you're planning on dying soon and happen to be in Japan, this may be just the service for you.
Oh, Tomo news. And as noted by our buddy Head in a Jar in the chat, of course, robots can now kill you and do the funeral. Pretty efficient for 2017. As long as we're talking robots on our last couple of stories here, passengers' baggage is collected by robots. They relax in a luxurious waiting area, complete with an indoor garden before getting a face scan, and swiftly passing through security and immigration. This could be the airport of the future. It's a vision that planners hope will become reality as new technology is rolled out, transforming the exhausting experience of getting stuck in lengthy queues in aging, overcrowded terminals into something far more pleasant. The Asia Pacific has been leading the way, but faces fierce competition from the Middle East as major hubs compete to attract the growing number of long-haul travelers who can choose how to route their journeys. The regions are the two leading pockets of technology growth because they're really competing to be the global hubs for air transportation, so says Seth Young, director for the Center of Aviation Studies at Ohio State University, talking to the AFP. If I'm going to fly from New York to Bangalore, do I transfer through Abu Dhabi or Dubai? Or do I transfer through Hong Kong? That's a huge, huge market. But the changes also represent major challenges that could upend decades-old business models of major airports, with analysts warning operators may face a hit to their revenues to the tunes of billions of dollars, which means that you and I, the suckers still paying for these services, will of course be passed on with that savings. Facial scanning in particular is generating a lot of buzz. Changi, in the affluent city-state of Singapore, regarded as among the world's best airports, is set to roll out biometric technology at a new terminal this year. Passengers will have their faces scanned when they first check in and at subsequent stages, theoretically allowing them to go through the whole boarding process quickly without encountering another pesky, dirty, ugly human. Australia announced in July an investment of $22.5 million. That's in Australian dollars. Oh, that's only $17.5 million in U.S. fiat currency. They're going to introduce facial recognition technology at all the country's international airports, while Dubai Airport is also trialing it. Face scans, robot baggage handlers, the airports of the future. Now, who will be running those? Will it be the robots? Will it be super brains? Elon Musk could be preparing to invest $100 million of his own money to fund Neuralink. The startup the billionaire tycoon hopes will one day produce technology capable of connecting the human brain to a computer and save us from AI overtake, which is what we ended yesterday's episode talking about on the geopolitics edition of your Morning Monarchy. Rise of the killer robots. So it's really interesting, and again, I haven't dived tons into it. I find it interesting that someone like Elon Musk, on the one hand, is warning about killer robots are going to kill us all, so we better become cyborgs to fight that. So our only way to beat the machine is to become the machine. The filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission confirms that Neuralink already has $27 million in funding, and Musk took to Twitter last Friday to shoot down suggestions that the company was looking for outside investors. Neuralink is not raising money, he said in a tweet. Super brains getting closer, my friends, and that's how we wrap up the Cyberspace War edition of your Morning Monarchy. Whew! Probably excited to log off from that one. All those stories we talked about, again, will be included in the show notes and in every day, no matter what day we're talking about. I implore you to check out the hashtag. Click on that hashtag itself and look at all the other stories that didn't make the cut here for the episode, but that are interesting and that are important and that are happening in your world, and it's news submitted by you. We're not only crowdfunded, but we are crowdsourced. So again, a huge thanks to our friends Sean Cathcart and Darren Williams and Ray Vahi, everybody who helped submit stories to this show and every show. Well, they changed their name again. The OCs and the OCs are now just OCs, and they've got their 147th album released this year. It's called Orc, and we will hear another pretty awesome slab from OCs coming up in just a few minutes, my friends, but past his prologue, let's look at this day in history. August 29th, 1786, Shays' Rebellion, an armed uprising of Massachusetts farmers, begins in response to high debt and tax burdens. Past is prologue. August 29th, 1831, Michael Faraday discovers electromagnetic induction, and with that we get to listen to, always one of my favorites, the old British Pathé film strips.
Michael Faraday, on August 29th, 1831, made a discovery which is the foundation of electrical engineering. He took this iron coil and wound two coils upon it. separated from one another and insulated from one another. The coil on this side he connected to a galvanometer. The other coil he connected to a battery.
On making the circuit, he observed a deflection of the needle, and on breaking the circuit, he observed the needle deflect in the opposite direction. This discovery of electromagnetic induction is the basis of electrical engineering. The machine we see here generates electricity at a pressure of about 1/4 million volts, and we will now demonstrate artificial lightning. This is Faraday's experiment to show that when a body is charged, the electricity is on the outside. We connect the cage to the machine, and the rising paper shows the charge. The demonstrator inside, however, can feel no effect, nor can the electroscope, which he holds up. The electroscope held outside, however, shows the charge is outside. This experiment shows the effect of induced currents. We have an alternating current round this magnet, and that repels this ring which I place on the magnet. The experiment can be illustrated in this way. Magnet repelling the ring and holding it in the air.
And then it pretty much sounds like the film strip breaks. You can see it even in the sound wave. We will include, of course, the link to that video so you can watch all of that, and you could read for yourself the title card that says, Michael Faraday, filmed at the Faraday Exhibition, London. No country can take from the British race the credit due to Faraday, the pioneer of electricity today. August 29th, 1831, Michael Faraday discovers electromagnetic induction. As we are looking at this day in history, 1885, Gottlieb Daimler patents the world's first internal combustion motorcycle, the Reitwagen. And of course, Daimler are also the ones who rolled out Car2Go. I don't know if you've seen Car2Go if you live in one of the major cities in America, if you're living in Seattle or Austin or Portland or Columbus, or I forget. There's a handful of other places. Car2Go, it's the little car share service. I use it once a month, sometimes use it for groceries. It's a nice, the little electric smart cars. I actually enjoy driving it like a crash-up derby doom buggy because I know the insurance is already paid. It's like, woohoo! Daimler invented those. They didn't just buy up another company. They actually invented and rolled out the Car2Go smart cars. So that is one case where the big boys didn't just buy up the competition. They actually invented it. Appropriately enough, August 29th, 1898, the Goodyear Tire Company was founded on this day. And then we jump to the 20th century, 1958. The United States Air Force Academy opens in Colorado Springs, Colorado. August 29th, that same day, 1958, 3 events. The second being Alan Freed's Big Beat Show opened at the Fox Theater in Brooklyn, New York, that being a lot of the beginnings of rock and roll. And that very same day, nor am I supposed to drive that point home, August 29th, 1958, George Harrison joined the band Quarrymen. John Lennon and Paul McCartney were also members. August 29th, 1964, Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman was released on this day. That was his second U.S. #1 and a third in the U.K. 1965, the Gemini 5 spacecraft returns to Earth, landing in the Atlantic Ocean on this day. August 29th, 1966, the aforementioned Beatles performed their last concert before paying fans at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. Now, of course, the last one would be up on the roof of Apple, which wasn't for paying fans. August 29th, 1970, Chicano moratorium against the Vietnam War, East Los Angeles, California. It's a police riot that kills 3 people, including journalist Ruben Salazar. Past his prologue, continuing to look at this day in history, August 29th, 1977, 3 people were arrested in Memphis after trying to steal Elvis's body. As a result, his body was moved to Graceland. August 29th, 1991, Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union suspends all activities of the Soviet Communist Party. That same day, Libero Grassi, an Italian businessman from Palermo, is killed by the Sicilian Mafia after taking a solitary stand against their extortion demands. Hey, nice shop here. It'd be a shame if somebody burnt it down. That's how gangsters work. And we remind you often from the words of Jane's Addiction, the gang and the government, there's no difference. August 29th, 1996. No, wait, I don't want to skip one. From 95, while shooting the music video for Meatloaf's I'd Lie For You, a pilot and cameraman are killed in a helicopter crash in the Sequoia National Forest about 150 miles north of L.A. August 29th, 1996, Isaac Hayes, who co-wrote the Stax classic Soul Man, sent a protest letter to presidential candidate Bob Dole requesting Dole stop using his song, which his supporters had changed to I'm a Dole Man. August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina devastates much of the U.S. Gulf Coast from Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle, killing an estimated 1,836 people and causing over $108 billion in damage. I can glance at the tweets right now and see that evacuation order issued as levee breached south of Houston. And finally, August 29th, 2007, talked about this a lot in the early Media Monarchy days. United States Air Force nuclear weapons incident. 6 U.S. cruise missiles armed with nuclear warheads are flown without proper authorization from Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota to Barksdale Air Force Base. Is that in Louisiana? Published in Media Monarchy a decade ago today, the dream is still alive. 40 years ago yesterday, a demonstration took place in Washington, D.C. Actually, we were just kind of catching up on those Dave Chappelle comedy shows, the kind of new ones up on Netflix. He mentions in there and says he can't confirm it, but that Bill Cosby paid for the PA system that Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech through. We'll have to look that up. Also published in Media Monarchy yesterday, a decade ago. I didn't want to mention them because we were doing our No America episode. Florida troops deployed to nation's capital, market crash forecast suggests new 9/11, and retired general says Al-Qaeda attack is coming. And a lot of those stories source back to the same places now that want to fear and paranoia about all the Islamophobic terror. Celebrating birthdays today? Holy freaking moly, it's quite the list. Born on this day, August 29th, Preston Sturgis, Ingrid Bergman, Isabel Sanford, Charlie Bird Parker, Richard Attenborough, Dinah Washington, William Friedkin, John McCain, Elliot Gould, Robert Rubin, Joel Schumacher, Robin Leach, Temple Grandin, Diamanda Galas, Jack Lew, Michael Joseph Jackson, Rebecca De Mornay, Chris Hadfield, Eddie Reeder, Elizabeth Frazier from the Cocteau Twins, Pebbles, Neil Gorsuch just became a Supreme Court judge, Anton Newcomb from the Brian Jonestown Massacre, Michelle Ndegeocello, Alex Griffin from Ned's Atomic Dustbin, and the last few are always pretty lame birthdays, Leah Michelle and Liam Payne. I think one of them is a boy band guy. And none of those last couples will make their way into our daily DJ set at noon. That's at noon Pacific Time, MediaMonarchy.com/listen. We call it Pump Up the Volume. We're doing a no new music week. You have to get your new music right here at the end of your Morning Monarchy episodes, as we end with brand new music from OC's Night Expo as we wrap it up. I appreciate you. And again, if you're having troubles, reach out to me, James at MediaMonarchy.com. I can try and help you out. You can also go to RadioConfluence.com. And a huge thanks to the Truth Seeker app and all our supporters, donors, subscribers, and patrons. That's the Tech Tuesday Cyberspace War edition of your Morning Monarchy for August 29th, 2017. I am James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Thanking you so much for listening, y'all. And reminding you, as always, don't hate the media, become the media. Take care.
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato. Since 2005, Media Monarchy has covered the real news about politics, health, technology, and the occult, all remixed with music and media that matters. Go to MediaMonarchy.com/support and become a monthly subscriber so you can help keep independent, non-commercial, alternative media going and growing. Thanks.